I'm Lucy and welcome back to Beautifully Unfinished, the podcast about this fascinating experience that we call life and all its changes, the good, the bad, and yes, some very, very ugly. Betrayal. Even saying that word, you can feel it, can't you? It's that punch in the stomach that drops you to your knees. That moment when your world shifts completely and somehow you remember everything, every detail surrounding the moment that you found out. Most of us have and will experience some kind of a betrayal in their lifetime. Maybe it's in a friendship, maybe it's in a family, maybe it's even at work. But for me, it was in my 30-year marriage. And here's the thing. Since the first time I found out, that was over 11 years ago, but I can still recall every single moment. You know, certain things in life just stay with you. A bit like being asked where you were and what you were doing when the 9/11 attacks happened, or when the news broke about Princess Diana's death. Those moments become crystal clear in your memory. Well, for me, discovering the betrayal was one of those moments. And what I've come to realize is this. The betrayal of being cheated on wasn't just about the moment itself, but the carnage it left in its wake. It's what comes after. Because suddenly you don't just question what happened, you question everything. You try to make sense of the story and your mind turns it into this Oscar-winning performing movie that is on replay. It's going over and over and over. You're replaying every scene, every word, every detail, often accompanied by sheer panic, tears, and if I'm honest, some choice words come out and get used a little too regularly. You start asking yourself, what in my 30-year marriage was actually real? What did I miss? What should have I seen? And then there are those aha moments where it's like you replay something that happened and then it never felt quite right at the time and suddenly now it makes a lot of sense. Maybe the hardest part of it all is you start to question yourself. The self-doubt creeps in quietly but powerfully. What did I do wrong? The shame of it. What if I'd done something differently? And those questions don't arrive all at once. They come quietly and most unexpected moments. And somehow they linger far longer than you'd like. You find yourself asking, how did I not see it? How did I miss it? Was any of it real? Was I holding on to something that was only real to me? Can I trust my own judgment again? And then there's the quieter questions, the ones that sit so deep. Will I ever feel safe again? Will I become someone who's more guarded now, more closed, more careful, and underneath all of it, what does it say about me? And I think this is the part no one really prepares you for. That it's not just your trust in someone else that's shaken, it's your trust in yourself. And that can feel incredibly unsettling because suddenly nothing feels certain anymore. There's something about the pain of betrayal. It's not obvious. It's not like a broken leg that's sitting in a cast and you got your leg out the way where people can see you hurt and they naturally make space for it. This kind of pain is so deep, it's hidden. It sits behind that brave smile, behind that I'm fine. And in those moments when your eyes give way, the tears come anyway, and yet, make no mistake, it's real pain. And I think one of the things I haven't spoken about much before is what I did in the aftermath. Because if I'm honest, initially I just forgave. But not in a way that healed me. It was in a way, simply survival way of pushing everything under the rug. What I think about it was my bit of my British way. The denial, dressed up as strength. I told myself I was being strong, that I was moving forward. But really I was just trying to become the things that I thought I wasn't enough of. To become more understanding, more patient, a better wife. And in the process I was just losing myself. As if somehow if I could be more, I could make sense of what had happened and can actually change the outcome. But deep down in the pit of my gut, I knew I was only touching the surface. It was a bit like an iceberg. There's a small piece visible above the water, but there was a lot happening, a lot bigger, deeper, hidden underneath. And I knew I didn't know the full story. And strangely, that awareness gave me the strength to restart, to rebuild myself, to make the decision that I made to leave, or to start moving forward. Not because I was brave, but because I felt like I had no choice anymore. It became a matter of survival. And that's the feeling that's hard to put into words. As you get older, you become a little more aware that you are not immortal. Life starts to feel a little more real. There's a saying, the body keeps the score. And it made me wonder, what does unprocessed pain do to us over time? What does it cost us to carry that inner turmoil day after day? And if I'm honest, that thought has frightened me, not in a dramatic way, but in a very quiet and very real way, because I realized I didn't want to carry that weight inside me anymore. And strangely, that fear became the turning point. It gave me the courage to start taking the steps that I needed to take. Because once the practical things were done, the decisions made, and the dust is settled, there was this quiet, persistent question. How do I love again? And more importantly, how do I ever trust again? Because I know I still have so much love to give. Healing itself is a journey. It's messy, not linear. It's not on a straight line. It's up and down all over the place. It's made up of good days and really crappy days. But somewhere along the way, I started to realize something, that maybe those questions aren't there to break us. Maybe they're just there to bring us back to ourselves, to slowly, gently, honestly bring us back. And something else I've come to learn. Something a dear friend of mine, Lynn's, reminds me regularly. It's simple, but it's powerful. Be kind to yourself. Because when you're hurting, your instinct is often to blame yourself, to question yourself, to be anything but kind. And yet that's exactly what you need the most. I also heard something that stayed with me. Psychologists apparently often say, name your pain and you can begin to tame it. Just makes so much sense, doesn't that? Because when we avoid it or push it down, it doesn't disappear. It simply manifests and shows up somewhere else. Whether it be our health, whether it be our language, whether it be our demeanor, who knows? And slowly those harsh questions begin to soften. How did I not see it becomes, I trusted, and that's not something to be ashamed of. Can I trust myself again becomes, I'm learning and I'm allowed to take my time. And maybe in all of that, there's a space to say, I'm hurting and I deserve kindness while I heal. And maybe the shift isn't about pretending it didn't happen or forcing forgiveness before you're ready. Because forgiveness isn't about being a martyr, it's about survival. It's about choosing not to carry something that weighs you down day after day. Because holding on to it doesn't change what happened. It just keeps you tied to it. And letting go isn't letting someone else off the hook. It's letting yourself breathe again, to live. And maybe this isn't about outrunning your story, because we don't get to outrun our story. It's our story. But we do get to choose how we carry it, how we use it, and what we allow it to become. We can choose not to let what happened to us to be the thing that defines us or becomes our legacy. Because to grieve and to find the courage to be vulnerable again is not a weakness. It's what it means to be human. And maybe this isn't about becoming hardened or closing yourself off, but about learning how to move forward as someone who's walked through something difficult and is still standing, not as a victim, but as a survivor of it. And slowly learning to trust that betrayal is not in every relationship. It's not the way the story ends every time. And that this chapter of your life is just a chapter. It doesn't have to be your whole book. Because those questions aren't there to define you. They're there to reshape you in ways that is quieter, stronger, and more your own. And that might just be where your healing begins. Thank you for being here with me today and for sharing this space with me. And until next time, stay beautifully unfinished. And if you enjoyed it, I'd love it if you would like, follow and subscribe. It just helps keep the podcast going. It costs nothing and I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank Thanks so much. See you next week.